one of my viewers made a comment on this bike that I had potentially forgot a washer between the outer pressure plate and the thrust bearing that's in here. So we're going to get back in and take a look. And he is 100% correct. So that's awesome. I really appreciate you paying attention enough to catch that, since I didn't. Hey everybody, welcome back. Glad to have you as always. Looks like it's a good time here to get back on our 2014 KX250F project and get this thing finished and ready to get ridden. So as far as I remember, mechanically she's good to go. Time for the cosmetic procedure. So basically, first things first, I had a header pipe and I have the FMF 4.1 muffler, no mid pipe. Can't buy it separately anymore through FMF, and it's difficult to get one. So what I ended up doing was getting a OEM muffler, and we're going to hope that that fits. And I got a pretty good deal on this, so I'm happy. Hopefully this fits with my header. And it does. That's awesome. Now that I got a full exhaust on it, I want to go ahead and see if this thing will start up and what it sounds like when I can actually hear the engine running. Good deal. She sounds real good. Let's keep going. So I was going to change the rear tire out, but I've come to the conclusion that it's good enough. But I am going to take it off and replace this rear sprocket and the chain. Just noticed I do not have an adjuster here. I don't know if it fell out or it's broken. I'm sure I've got one lying around here somewhere that'll work. All right, so before I go any further, when I had this thing running, I noticed that the FI light on the old dashboard here was lit constantly. And what that is telling me that there's an issue with the digital fuel injection system of some sort. Now, the bike seems like it runs pretty good, but there's obviously some kind of issue. So we're going to have to get into diagnostics on this. So if the bike's not running, we need to get a 12-volt power source to the bike. And the first thing we want to do is disconnect our capacitor. And what we want to do is hook 12 volts up to this to power up the system. Keep in mind that the orange wire is going to be your positive and the black wire is going to be your negative. And then we can continue with the diagnostics from there. However, this bike does run and I can get the power source from the bike itself. So I'm going to leave this connected. Now, once you have your power source connected, we want to come up here to the neck of the frame, and there's this yellow wire. And what we want to do is go ahead and ground this to the frame. You're going to hold it for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to observe our FI light. And if there are any codes, this light should blink the codes for us. Let's take a look at it. As you can see, our light is on steady. What we're going to do is go ahead and ground this and hold it. And we want to see what we got for blinks. All right, so we definitely want to hold this for a few because we want to make sure if there's more than one code that it flashes every code. What we got here was one long, one short. And it repeated that over and over again. So let's take a look at the service manual, the diagnostic trouble codes, and see what they say for that. So if we go ahead and look at this chart, service code, one long, one short is service code 11, telling me I have an issue with the throttle sensor as a malfunction with either wiring open or short, or the sensor itself has failed. And we'll have to get into some diagnostics on that before we put anything else together here. I'm not going to get into diagnostics here on this particular build. I'm going to go ahead and just fix whatever the problem is. Basically, what you want to do is just follow your manufacturer's recommended diagnostics for your particular bike and figure out where your problem is. All right, so we got our diagnostics done on our running issue and nothing to fear. It was basically just because this thing had been sitting outside for a while. The connection had a little bit of corrosion in it. We cleaned that up. It's good to go. Lights off. She runs great now. So I'm going to continue to get this thing cleaned up. We'll get some grips on it, some new levers. I got all new plastics and graphics for it. I don't know what brand of glue this is, but it's pretty strong. It's purple. If you guys have ever seen that before, let me know down in the comments what it is. These levers actually work pretty good, and they're fairly inexpensive. I pick them up for just a tick over $20 for the pair of them off of eBay. So unfortunately, we got a bolt that's stuck in this little nutsert that fits in this tank here. So we're going to have to fix this, and the easiest way, or the best way that I'm going to be able to do this, is I'm going to go ahead and spin this up until it gets hot and then pull it out with my pliers. Once I can separate it on the bench, I can JB weld this nut back in, or JB weld another nut in to fix this problem. Spinning this creates friction and heats it up, so I can pull this out of the plastic. Now what I'm going to do is take this over to my vise and see if I can get this bolt out to reuse this. If not, we're going to have to use a different kind of nut setup. So putting it in a vise, I was able to get this out, and I will be able to use this nutsert again. First thing I want to do is get this cleaned up real well with some brake parts cleaner. I'm going to be real careful with brake parts cleaner around plastic because it will make it hard and brittle. So we're going to not do much in the way of cleaning here. Next thing I'm going to do here is just take a long bolt, put some grease on the threads, and that's going to be so that the JB weld doesn't stick to the threads. All right, I got some JB weld mixed up here, nice and gooey. So now we have to remelt this plastic, and certainly not going to put a torch or a heating element of any sort on this plastic. So what I'm going to do is heat this nut up a little bit just so we can kind of force it back inside there. A little more heat. Now, I probably could have got this stuck in a little bit further. It is sticking out just a touch, but that will be perfectly fine. And once this hardens and dries up, we can put our shroud back on and it'll be solid as a rock. I'm going to spray this down with a little bit of soapy water. The reason these stickers are sticky and they will stick instantly. So if we got a little bit of soapy water on there, we got a little bit of movement to get them looking just the way we want them to. And once you sort of got it fit where you want, we're going to hit it with the heat gun. It's going to allow these stickers to bend around all the corners and get into those little crevices because they're pretty hard, so you're not going to want to go in there nicely unless you get some heat on them. And you can use a hair dryer for this. Trick with this is just take your time. They don't fully stick down right now, not a problem. As this dries up, we'll get a little bit more heat on them and then replace them where they need to be. Trick is just getting them lined up. I'm a big fan myself of factory looking graphics rather than all kinds of fancy stuff, but this is going to work the same way no matter what kind of kit you get. So now that's not looking too bad. Again, like I said, we're just going to let this dry up a little bit and we'll come back and hit it with a little bit more heat and just smooth it out one more time and she should look pretty good. Now, obviously, we just repeat this on the other side. All right, got it all together. Happy with how it turned out. What I need to do now is take it up, give it a good hearty scrubbing, wash, wax, polish, make it so that the person that comes to look at it, talking about, wow, that bike looks better than it did in the pictures, I'd love to give you my money to take that off your hands. Don't hear that too often. Most of the time you hear is, man, that bike's nice. It looks better than it does in the pictures. Will you take $500 less than you're asking? I guess you really can't fault somebody for doing that. If you don't ask, you don't receive. So what it sounds like right now is it's actually pouring pretty good. Not going to be able to get this thing up and get it detailed. And of course, before I do that, I should probably give it a test ride to make sure the transmission works and stuff like that before we get into too much polishing. So let that clear up. I'll move on to another project and then I'll get back with you when I can get on this and get her finished up. Well, we got this together and this bike is looking fantastic. Not too bad for something I very strongly considered parting out, but it was worth all the effort. All I got to do now is touch up some of the dull and faded parts. we got her all shined up with the super cool one spray. This bike looks absolutely amazing. As always, I want to thank all of you for all your support, kind words, comments, likes, and subscriptions, of course. If you need a service manual, I got a link down in the description. Get you a little bit of a discount there. Also, if you're looking for some Restorooster merch, link will be down in the description as well. Thanks again so very much for watching, and we're going to see you on the next one.